Hello there everyone, welcome on into another LEGO video game video, and today this video is not an attack on a video that was uploaded I think around 2 weeks ago called The Lost Magic of LEGO Star Wars. This is just an opposite point of view to say the other point, not to bash that video. I actually quite enjoyed that video, and I'll leave a link and put the YouTuber who uploaded it right on the screen now. But this is saying otherwise on why I think LEGO games still have the magic that they did in 2007. So before I get into this video, make sure you like the video, subscribe, and join the Discord. The link will be in the description for that. All those would be greatly appreciated and they help out my channel a lot. So let's get into it. Back in 2005, LEGO Star Wars the video game released, and the movies were not well received, but the video game did quite well and was acclaimed by critics. The sequel, LEGO Star Wars 2, the original trilogy, was much the same except the movies were acclaimed by critics, and so was the game. It only made sense in 2007 to re-release the games in a bundled package called LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga. Now this game only had a few new features, a couple new characters, some deleted levels, and just improved graphics, which weren't that much of an improvement, but the game became a hit and is remembered by many fans today as the best LEGO game. Now that may not be true, but it does have a lot going for it. A lot of people love the grunts and the visual gags, and they do claim that newer games do not feature those, which is true. Newer LEGO games only feature voice acting. This happened in 2012 when LEGO Batman 2 DC Superheroes came out, and I wasn't very against it ever. So when LEGO Batman 2 came out, it was most likely they added voice acting because the first game, which was not based off any movies and was an original story, which is one of my favorite LEGO video games to mention, it was regarded as confusing because the story was original and they couldn't voice what was going on, so for most of the game you did not know what was going on either. So with that criticism, they introduced voice acting, like I said, in 2012, and this had mixed reactions, but I think it was mostly well received at the time. Nowadays people don't like voice acting in LEGO games, which I find really strange, but the points are for it is grunting is nostalgic, and the visual gags are no longer there. It's kind of more the jokes are out of placed objects, which I don't like. I can agree with that. Like the running pig gag in LEGO Avengers was not funny. But the other complaint that I don't agree with is the banter is bad. Now, more of the humor in LEGO games now has to do with the characters bouncing off each other, and they don't really work well together, and they kind of make some funny moments or argue, and that makes most of the comedy. I think this really does work, just depending on how you do it. For example, LEGO DC Supervillains, my favorite LEGO game by the way, has a lot of this banter, but these characters in the DC universe, they just work so well together. Like, it's part of, I think you have to have an understanding of the universe that it's built upon to actually appreciate this, but LEGO DC Supervillain just does that so well, I think, and it does have a lot of voice acting, because everything is basically explained by voice acting, but it also does have a lot of visual gags that don't depend on, oh, that's an animal, that shouldn't be here. It more depends on like what characters do in the actual universe, so that makes it funny. But I understand why people don't like this, because you have to know the universe to understand. Bringing me to my next point on LEGO games being confusing with voicing, without voicing and grunts. So, with LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga, you can pretty much understand what was going on the whole time, even if you're not a fan of the Star Wars universe. And my second favorite LEGO game, LEGO Harry Potter Years 5 through 7, comes into play. So the LEGO Harry Potter games were pretty much agreed on to be either middle tier or good games. No one really had many complaints, but one thing I did see is the story is really hard to follow if you're not a Harry Potter fan, which I do understand. You're not going to understand what any of this means without Harry Potter knowledge, making the play experience worse for those people. And I do think LEGO Harry Potter would be more easy to follow with voice acting. I do think it suffers from that. But that was the first movie game to really be regarded as confusing without voice acting. So what went wrong with grunting? So the grunts, they probably tried to get rid of them for quite some time after the success of LEGO Star Wars, but they were well received, so why? If it isn't broke, don't fix it. But then it did break in around 2008, but they kept it around for a couple more years until 2011. The last game to have grunts is, I believe, Lego Star Wars 3 in 2011, and 2012 had Lego Batman and Lego Lord of the Rings, two games that with voice acting that are really well received. And pretty much for the next year, voice acting was still regarded as a good thing with Lego Marvel Superheroes, the video game, which was once again well received and had voice acting. It didn't rely on stupid gags, but it still relied on banter more than visual gags. So, in 2014, Lego The Hobbit was released, and that's when it started going back to visual gags with voice acting, except the gags weren't funny. It'd be like, oh, there's a pig or a bird in a certain scene where they shouldn't be. Or at least I think so. I have not watched the movies, so I wouldn't know. And the voice acting was all around just lazy in this. There was clear audio cutouts, which isn't good. A lot of people say they're clear in Lego Marvel Avengers and Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens, which they are not. But you can clearly tell they are in Hobbit, but that's okay, because that was one of the earlier ones. Then in 2016, two really controversial Lego games were released, Lego Marvel Avengers and Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens, both with voice acting, both regarded as really lazy, and I have to agree on these ones. Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens did actually feature the cast coming back for bonus missions and extended lines, but for the most part they just used the audio from the movie. And Avengers just completely used the audio from the movie, did not get any of the cast back. And if they did need someone for an extended scene or something, they would get a placement voice actor that wasn't the ones from the movies, which I guess made sense. But these were heavy on non-funny visual gags, such as the pig in every scene with Lego Marvel Avengers that had a jetpack, and ice cream, especially with Quicksilver's death. Not really anyone like that. And Force Awakens usually had a banana or something as a gun. Something not funny, really. But there was some funny moments in Force Awakens, but not really anything too good. I do regard those games as both pretty good. They just have problems, as all games do. Now, so I think this is where the hate on them started coming in. And in 2014, Lego Batman 3, I don't think people didn't like it because the gags or the jokes. They just thought the story was kind of lame. And after replaying, I do agree. It wasn't as good as I remembered it to be, and the hub worlds were too small to get much exploration, although it does make it easier for 100%ing. So now, the legacy of voice acting in LEGO games is tarnished, and it clearly is today, and hopefully that will be changed with Skywalker Saga, which will hopefully balance them out really well. In the trailer, it looked like it had a fair share of good visual gags and voice acting, so that will be very good. Hopefully people will regard it as a good game, if it is a good game, which I'm betting it will be. Yeah, even though it has voice acting. Now, why is the magic still here, as the title says? I have been talking about all the negatives in these games for quite some time. What's the positive? Alright, so, I mentioned a couple games, Lego Marvel Superheroes, Lego Batman 2, Lego Lord of the Rings, and Lego DC Supervillains. I recognize those with all good things, not bad, and these are games with voice acting, and many people do agree. Lego DC Supervillains was released in 2018, and I think it had high ratings. It was nothing too unusual for a Lego game. I think it were in the 80s, which is their usual. Not on the lower scale of things. And like I said, it was really in universe. It had references to the source material, which me as a DC fan loved. It was overall a great game, and the customizing features, which all that together rounded up to a great game with incredible voice acting. People that don't like voice acting, and if you are a fan of the DC universe, I don't know how you can't like this. You have Kevin Conroy as Batman, Mark Hamill as Joker, Tara Strong as Harley, John Barrowman as the Dark Archer, Malcolm Merlin, and many other recognizable voices. And in the movie packs, Zachary Levi as Shazam, and Jason Momoa as Aquaman. So these have very good voice acting. So I'm pretty sure this was trying to to get people to regard voice acting as a good thing in LEGO games, which, like I said, sadly didn't work. But here's why I think LEGO Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga will appeal to both fans of voice acting and grunts. As you can see in the trailer, at first it only used grunts, leading people to speculate that it would be a fully grunted game, or there would be a grunt option, which that is not confirmed, even though some people are passing it off to be. It did confirm voice acting, and at the time of this video, it has been said that there's only voice acting in the game, but they'll consider adding a grunt option if it isn't too hard, which I think it might be. The trailers, like I said, they look really good, especially the new gameplay trailer that came out in August of 2020. It showed off a lot of the classic charm of LEGO games and the new voice acting and how they work together in that. And you might be saying, okay, well, The Force Awakens came out, and everyone was saying how good that looked in the thing. Well, if you look at the comments from like 5 years ago when The Force Awakens came out on YouTube, everyone was roasting the game for having voice acting. If you look at the Skywalker Saga, people are having hype over it. They might be saying yes, they prefer grunts and wish they were in the game. They wish they were in the game instead. But they're not saying like, oh, this game looks horrible or anything, which this is a very good sign for LEGO Star Wars. So maybe this new game, LEGO Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, and I believe this to be true, will bring back the magic that some lost in the LEGO games after voice acting was implemented. So comment your thoughts down below. Did voice acting ruin video games? Did LEGO video